What's up, Tiger family? It's the Morgan Thomas Show. Morgan Thomas here to talk about some news that came out yesterday afternoon. Former Clemson linebacker commits to LSU. Mike Jones Jr. is changing teams, changing conferences, but sticking with the Tigers. And welcome in. Thought this was interesting news. I know it happened yesterday, so we'll call it yesterday's news today. But I wanted to get in and get your thoughts and tell you my thoughts about it because it was a little bit shocking to me. I wasn't expecting, it's not often that you see someone go from a Power Five conference team to another Power Five conference team. And you would probably say, most would probably say from one prestigious team to another. I know LSU, they were kind of a one-hit wonder with their national championship, but they are considered a prestigious college football team that's been around, been to the national championship, won national championships in the past. So it was one of those things where not usually see that. Normally you see them go to maybe a lower school, but we'll get into that a little bit further because there are some major differences between the Tigers in orange and the Tigers in gold there. So you can see from his tweet that he comes out with, he says, "Make your next move your best move," red exclamation, at LSU football. Got a nice little graphic there with, the Photoshop jersey there. Obviously, once a Tiger, always a Tiger, and that is for sure with this situation. He announced, and let's take a look at what he did last year. So Jones had 30 tackles, 2 interceptions, a half of a sack, 4 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble in 10 games in last season as a redshirt sophomore starter. He tallied 52 total tackles, 8 for a loss, 2 interceptions as a Tiger, and he was a 4-star recruit out of IMG Academy in Florida, or out of Florida. So my first thoughts on that is, obviously, again, you wish him well, and you kind of have to take a look at his season as a whole. Now, a lot of people I see in chat are saying that this is a concern because this is someone who was a starter, who was an every down contributor to Clemson, and now he's leaving and going to another program. Is that a problem from a Clemson standpoint? And what I will say is there's a tale of 2 seasons in this sense. There's the first half of the season, and then there's the second half, or towards the end, the playoff part of the season. If you look, Mike Jones Jr. was definitely a starter at beginning the season, but as the season went on and into the playoffs, which I would say, go back and look at the playoffs, he wasn't the starter against Ohio State, and he was starting to share times with likes of Malcolm Green and Trenton Simpson, 2 guys that, again, if you're a player, if I'm just thinking myself, I'm starting every down, every snap in that position, and then I slowly get, kind of by committee in that same position. Writing's kind of on the wall there, but let's look at some of the comments that we get from some of the articles that I've read. So we've got Stubborn Tiger, oh boy, says, "Oh boy, I'm not, I didn't really get that feeling." Let me know if you got the feeling. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. I didn't get an oh boy feeling at first. I mean, yeah, it is shocking to say, wow, he's going to LSU from Clemson. But again, there's some things I want to talk about as well. Someone said it'd be a great place for grad school. Another person says, "I'm pretty sure grad school is not the reason he chose to go to LSU." And then somebody said, "Oh Lord, LSU's defense definitely needs the help." And I looked that up. Total defense last year, Clemson was 15th in total defense. All right, this is from cfbstats.com, a website I love because it's just so basic for me, and then LSU 124th overall out of 127 teams. Total defense. Not good. Not good. Let's go pass defense, because I would say the reason why I'm looking at pass defense here, and let's just search LSU here. Reason why I'm thinking pass defense is because Mike Jones was known for someone who was more of a coverage guy instead of a run stopper or a guy's going to get you high level tackles, right? You've got LSU in pass defense 127th. Now remember what I said. there's 127 teams that are accounted for in this in this ranking here. So they're dead last. Compare that to Clemson 41st. So pass defense completely different, total defense completely different. If you look at it from that standpoint, LSU definitely needs the help. Any help they can get is going to be great for them. LSU also 67th overall in rush defense, so better there. Clemson, on the other hand, 15th. So again, yes, he's going from one Power 5 team to another. Yes, he's going from a prestigious team to another. But keep in mind that there's big differences within the organization, specifically on those defenses and on the production of both defenses. He's going from a highly productive, highly competitive, elite level defense to a defense that and a team that basically struggled to find players to play that wouldn't opt out or just sit out or whatever they decided to do last season. There were a lot of bad, negative publicity, negative things going on at LSU. Maybe Mike Jones can bring in a good culture there for that. And some people also mention, as far as like bringing in stuff, we actually mentioned this, I believe last year or 2 years ago with Kyler McMichael. They actually mentioned in their comment Josh Belk. Now, Josh Belk, a guy I don't think, barely even played, I don't even know. Was he even in the spring? I don't even know. And then he didn't play for the team that he went to with South Carolina. We did mention, Alan and I, previously about Kyler McMichael and worried about how he was going to do with the Tar Heels and what he was going to bring to them. Now, I'm sure he's going to bring some things, but you got to think about it. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. So what does Clemson do that LSU doesn't do? Well, there's a lot of things that are, I think, intangible things. So yes, Mike Jones can talk about the culture. He can talk about, what Dabo Swinney does in meetings and what Clemson does all together. And I'm sure those are things that LSU has tried. I'm sure when it comes to, scheme, when it comes to play calling, when it comes to culture building, those are things that probably the top teams all are very similar with. But when it comes to those intangible things, you can't just have Ed Orgeron be Dabo Swinney. You have to be who you are. You can't really, for a long period of time, pretend to be someone else. It won't be successful. I think of it as the fact of Dave Ramsey, for example. I love Dave Ramsey. I read all his books. I listen to his radio show. I know a ton about Dave Ramsey and his philosophy, and I can give you advice based on what I think he would say. But can I get on stage and be Dave Ramsey? No. So there is some things that, yes, he would be able to pick up. Now, do I think that Mike Jones is going to take a big giant book and say, hey, here's what Clemson does? Well, first of all, I hope not. I don't think that Clemson would allow that or would hope that they would prevent that in some way. But second of all, too, every year is a new year. Clemson talks about this. Dabo Swinney talks about this. Yes, they do some things similar, but they're going to change up their play calls. They're going to change up their schemes a little bit. They're going to change up how they call certain plays and the icons or the images, the graphics that they use, and they're going to tweak themselves because you have to continue to evolve in this game. As you can see, the more you play those top level teams, the more they kind of catch on to what you're doing. And with Ryan Day, he specifically said what he was going to do even before the game, and it was hard for Clemson to adjust. And so Clemson's going to have to take a step back and say, okay, what can we do differently next year? And they do that every single year. So I'm not necessarily concerned with what Mike Jones will bring to the table as far as like stealing stuff or proprietary information or anything like that. Again, I think it's a great thing that he is continuing to be able to play, but I also want fans to understand that it is not apples to apples, oranges to oranges. It is a completely different team there. One team struggling on defense, he's leaving a team that is elite top level defense. So again, we'll see what Mike Jones Jr. can do in the SEC. You know how they say it's different in the SEC. It just means more. So we'll see how much it means to Mike Jones and what he can do to help improve that LSU defense. Again, once a Tiger, always a Tiger. I believe he's going to be graduating Clemson after 3 years, and you got to be great for that. You got to be thankful for that. So let us know what you think in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. And remember, we've moved it from Monday night live stream to a Tuesday night live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern time so that we can multi-stream with the Roar 105.5 up in the upstate if you listen to the radio. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week.